We've been a leader in banking for more than 100 years. You'll find us here, at home, on your phone, and everywhere you go. Renaissance Bank. Understanding you. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Sponsored by Renaissance Bank.
Good morning and welcome to Daily Journal Newsbreak, sponsored by Renaissance Bank. Today is Friday, August 3rd, and I'm your host, Elizabeth Walters. We're going to take a look at today's top news and sports stories across Northeast Mississippi, but first, let's start with your weather forecast. Today we'll have mostly sunny skies with a high of 93 and a low of 70. And for your weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, we'll have a 40% chance at thunderstorms. Saturday's high will be 90 and a low of 72. And on Sunday, a high of 92 and a low of 73. And as you start your work week, we'll have partly cloudy skies on Monday with a high of 94 and a low of 74. Now let's take a look at today's top headlines. All 5 major party Senate candidates spoke at the Neshoba County Fair on Thursday. In his speech, Chris McDaniel praised and quoted his political hero, former President Ronald Reagan, and proclaimed that Donald Trump is a fine president and that he needs fighters, not those trying to ride his coattails in D.C. Democrat Mike Espy struck a moderate tone before the largely conservative crowd, criticizing the Washington establishment and assuring his audience that he will work across the aisle with the lawmakers who are there. And during her speech, Cindy Hyde-Smith, who was appointed to Thad Cochran's post after his retirement in the spring, highlighted efforts to pass the Republican agenda and approve conservative federal judges. Both Roger Wicker and David Berea also took the stage. Wicker was originally not scheduled to speak, but announced on Wednesday that he would. And in his speech, Wicker said that Mississippians need to elect Republicans to ensure regulations that harm job creators continue to be repealed and to ensure that the historic tax cuts passed in 2017 are not repealed. Berea spent most of his time pointing out Wicker's failings, saying Wicker has done more to help large corporations and that he has asked Wicker to debate and has received no response. You can read more about the final day of political speeches from the Neshoba County Fair on djournal.com. And Tupelo's traffic committee has voted to advance proposals for new turn lanes and merge lanes to facilitate Tupelo High traffic entering and exiting onto Cliff Cookin Boulevard. 5 different options were presented to the committee this week, all intended to alleviate at least some of the concerns voiced by Tupelo High administrators and parents. 4 of the 5 proposals were approved in advance to the City Council. Ward 6 Councilman Mike Bryan said that he was pleased by the action and is confident the council can find the funding for at least one option. Earlier this year, a proposal surfaced to use safety cones to temporarily turn part of a travel lane on Cliff Cookin into a merge lane during the morning and afternoon travel peaks. That idea was ultimately rejected over safety concerns. And the Mississippi Supreme Court agreed to review the 2017 appeal of Brett Jones's case to the State Court of Appeals. The court could vacate the life in prison sentence and send the case to the circuit court, where Jones could be made eligible for parole. Jones was 15 when he stabbed his grandfather and was found guilty in 2005 and sentenced to life in prison. Following a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Mississippi Supreme Court vacated the sentence and ordered a resentencing in 2013. During that time, the court had to decide between life and life without parole. In his resentencing decision, Circuit Court Judge Thomas Gardner said the jury rejected the notion of self-defense and considered the lesser charge of manslaughter, then sentenced him to life in prison. Late last year, the Court of Appeals voted to uphold the Circuit Court ruling that denied Jones parole. Since the Supreme Court has 180 days from the last filing to make a ruling, a decision should come by the end of November. And in sports, the Rebels have kicked off practice after head coach Matt Luke spoke to the media on Thursday. After a large number of players were held out of spring drills, practice opens now with only one player unavailable, junior running back Devon Penniman, who could return by mid-season. Tight end Dawson Knox is back after missing spring drills for off-season foot surgery, and Rebels coach Matt Luke now has the opportunity to evaluate the defensive line, which had several injuries during the spring. That unit ranked last in the SEC last season and 115th nationally in total defense, allowing almost 460 yards per game. Ole Miss will open the 2018 season against Texas Tech in Houston. And that does it for Newsbreak on this Friday. Don't forget that this show is just one of the many online offerings courtesy of the Daily Journal that gets you news off the page and on the go. Each story discussed today on Newsbreak can be found in your Daily Journal and online at djournal.com, where you can also find a new episode of Newsbreak each weekday morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Walters. Have a great weekend.